Podcast. 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 Yeah, welcome to the Racer X Exhaust podcast brought to you by Yoshimura. I am Jason Weigandt. This is the most exciting time of the year. As I always say for the Motocross and Supercross set, the week before Anaheim 1 is Christmas, it's New Year's, it's all wrapped into one. Our holiday just comes, say, 6 to 10 days after most others because we get all the presents when practice begins and the main events begin at the first race of the year, and we have such parity and we don't know who's going to win, and every year is the most stacked field ever. This is the time. And I know 2021 is weird. It's weird to start a campaign like this. I think a lot of us were thinking back in May and June, oh, we'll just get through Supercross. We'll probably get through outdoors, and then we'll be back to normal in 2021. Well, here we are, many months later, and I can tell you the rules, the lockdown situation at the races is pretty much the same as it was at Salt Lake City. We will have fans in Houston. There will be a pit party, so there is some progress, but everyone is still going to have to work around restrictions and things like that. So the game is not completely changed. And I think everyone's a little bit disappointed. If you had told everyone in May that this is where we would be in January of 21, I think everyone would say, seriously still? But I do have some good news. It still feels exciting. Yeah, people are going to have to deal with COVID restrictions at the races, and teams are going to have to operate in a little bit different capacity. Yes, we don't have Anaheim. Yes, everyone's in Houston. They won't be able to get back to their test tracks immediately. All that is weird and different, but it still feels exciting. And I was in California last week, and people are doing the normal thing. They're still scrambling. They're still trying to find an extra tenth on the track. They're still working on bikes. They're still packing the rigs. A lot of the things that get us so excited about this Christmas and New Year's wrapped into one, about the Supercross opener, most of those feelings are still there. And when the gate drops on Saturday night in Houston and you watch it on TV or the Peacock Network, or maybe you're one of the fans that's there in person, it's still going to be the opening round of racing, and it'll still seem the same. And that's really what matters most. So that's cool. Except there's going to be one thing missing, and that's what I'm going to focus in on this episode of the show. Chad Reed is not racing this Supercross opener. And it's the first time since 2001 that the gate's going to drop at a Supercross opener, and Chad Reed will not be on that gate. But first, shout out to Yoshimura. Got a lot of cool things going here. We mentioned the KX250 exhaust system. The RS12 is now available as well. We mentioned that they've got a great line of trail bike systems for very popular trail bikes like the Kawasaki KLX 110, and those new Honda trail bikes, the CRF Fs that Honda introduced a year ago, the 125, the 110, big power gains with those bikes. So check out Yoshimura for that. Or if you like the high-end racing stuff, check out their YouTube channel. Just look up Yoshimura on YouTube and search, and they've got a real cool introduction for the Honda HRC team. All four riders, 450, 250, Sexton, Roxzen, the Lawrence brothers running Yosh. And now that the Twisted Tea HEP Suzuki team has stepped up to become Suzuki's premier squad, they're running Yoshimura exhaust this year, and they get a really cool video on that. So Yoshimura doing big things and ready for 21. As for us here at Racer X, calendars are done. We are now into the new year. This is cool. I didn't even know this. I just looked. License plate frames. RacerXOnline.com Moto Everyday License Plate Frame, and a giant sticker to put on your trailer or your van or truck if you're really nasty, coming your way. So go to RacerXOnline.com/Weege, W-E-E-G-E. Sign up, $30. You get the magazine, both print and digital access. The digital access is right through our website. So if you go through RacerXOnline.com and you like the way that reads, the magazine stories can be read in the exact same format if you're a subscriber. So subscribe now, $30. That's cheap. $30 for the year. And do that. Now let's get into, well, hold on. Do you want me to talk Chad Reed now, or do you want me to talk a little tiny Supercross preview? We've done tons of preview stuff. Go to our YouTube channel and watch our preview series. I just want to comment on one thing, two things that I'm learning. These are two observations, to borrow it from Mathis, that I have before I get to Chad. First, Ken Roxzen, we haven't seen or heard a ton from Ken Roxzen this offseason. I think there's always a bit of mystery with Roxzen just because of the health issues. We never know what we're going to get. And then this year, even more of a mystery because he did not race outdoors, and we got a new Honda coming. Of course, the Honda people, and then every other person on every other team with every other bike says the bike, they're all super comfortable, and they're all super comfortable right away. It doesn't matter who it is. They're all super comfortable right away. The only riders that I heard admit any sort of there was an adjustment process. Are you ready? Everybody's super comfortable. Austin Forkner admitted there's a new KX250F this year, and they tried to set it up like the old one, and that wasn't working. They had to go in another direction. And Yoshimura also moved to that Monster Pro Circuit Kawasaki team, and he said it took a couple weeks to... He didn't want to change the bike too much. He said he wanted to adapt his riding to the bike instead of adapting the bike to him. That's it. Those are the only two riders out of, I think we've talked to 36 people this week, literally 36, with all the press conferences that Feld was putting together on Zoom. The only two riders I heard not say, I was comfortable on my bike immediately, it's awesome, and we're ready. And then I asked everybody, hey, we're not going to be able to go to the test track right after the opener. What if you freak out? What if your bike's way off? And everybody said, nah, I just got to rely on my team. We'll be good. You know, they will make the adjustments at the racetrack. We'll go out for practice. We'll be fine. That's what everybody said. It's unbelievable. Same stuff every year. Everyone's so comfortable. Just you wait. Just you wait. Someone's going to be out of sorts, and then they're going to wish that they had a Supercross track in Texas lined up. Nobody does right now, which blows my mind. All right, rant, that hilarious thing, same thing every year, that's over. Two things I want to point out. Back to Roxzen. So we didn't know what to expect from Roxzen. He did some press this week, talked to him a few times, and I have to say he's in a very interesting spot mentally. Hearing a lot from Roxzen on the, not trying to get too wrapped up in it, not trying to focus on a result and live and die by the results. And I feel like a lot of racers at his level are always wrestling with that because, look, if you're Ken Roxzen, you cannot be happy with third in the points. You're not happy to get fifth at a race. Your goal is to win because you know that's your potential. You have the capacity to win on any given weekend and win any title you compete for. And it's really hard for these guys to wrestle with this. And look, I've talked to none other than the great Justin Brayton. Brayton never had that pressure. His life is totally different than an Eli Tomac or a Ken Roxzen or a Ryan Dungey or a Ryan Villopoto. When if you don't win, no matter how much you try to convince yourself in the back of your mind, you're going to be bummed because you have the talent to win any race you're in. You're not going to win every one, but you at least know, there was a chance I could have won and I didn't win. So I really feel like you're hearing a lot from Roxzen on, I'm just trying to enjoy it. I'm in a good place mentally. I don't think he's trying to convince himself like he's not enjoying it and he's trying to convince himself to enjoy it. I just think that he's trying really hard to keep the pressure off of himself because he's ridden this roller coaster because of the physical thing. It leaks into his mental side. There are some weeks where he feels terrible and there are some weeks where he feels great. And he's talked about this a lot. He hates going to a race weekend and being like, this is going to be bad. I don't have a shot. I feel horrible today. And that's just a lot to deal with mentally. So I think he's really preparing himself to just let it all go, man. Whatever happens, happens. So you didn't hear any predictions at all on results. Yes, Ken wants to win the title. We all know that. But, he's not saying it's now or never. I have to get this done. I think he's trying to take a totally different pathway. If you hear these things from Roxzen, and you will, don't be frustrated and say, does this mean that Roxzen's given up? That he doesn't want to win the title? I'm telling you right now, this is just a process he's going through to try to get this title. I think he knows this is his best approach. Don't be super pumped the day you feel great and you win, and then super down in the dumps the day you feel horrible. Just try to treat it like I'm just punching the clock today, and I'm not going to get too emotional about it. That's what I've noticed from Ken Roxzen, that he's just trying to level it off and just be like, this is my job, this is what I do. I'm not saying he's treating it like a job and he doesn't have the passion for it. He just cannot get too passionate because when you have the bad weekend, it drives you insane. So that's what I've noticed, a real level approach from Roxzen. I believe there was a time, beginning of 2018, Anaheim won 2018, where Roxzen had this storybook movie documentary idea in his head that he was going to go from the huge injury in 2017 and then win the next time he was back at Anaheim, maybe win the title, have this whole storybook thing. That was what he was focused on for a long time. But look, it has not worked out. He's dealt with many ups and downs even since then, and I think he's got a completely different approach now. Would he love to win? Yes. But maybe the best way to do it is to not focus on the winning, just focus on the riding, the bike, each lap, stay in that moment, and maybe that's the best way to get the result. And then maybe you do get the storybook ending. Maybe you get the win. And the other rider I want to talk about, so I hosted the Gas Factory teams intros last week, Supercross, the GNCC Coastal Racing team, and the Trials team. Justin Barsha's there, and Gas is really big on the We're the Fun brand. So he's like a chihuahua, right? He's just always barking and yelling and talking, and he's just high energy all the time. He's the perfect guy for the fun brand. But he was kind of nervous, I felt like, in the interview that we did on stage, and then I interviewed him just on video afterwards, and he seemed a little nervous. And I was trying to figure out why. Here's what I think. I think Barsha knows that he's in a very, very good position right now, and also he knows that everyone else knows that. Everyone's thinking, oh man, look, he said he wasn't happy with some of the moves that Honda made, and he wasn't happy with the bike at times when he was with Honda. And then he said the same thing about JGR, and he said the same thing about Yamaha. I think he now knows, look, there are very few excuses when you're on what is essentially a KTM. There's very few excuses. So I think he knows that that's real pressure on him. He's not going to be able to once again blame the bike and team. So that's pressure number one. Pressure number two, he's known as the guy who does really well at the opener. So if Barsha goes out and gets sixth here at Houston, it's going to look worse than it is for other riders because Barsha is... Well, he won the opener the last 2 years, and he almost won it 3 years in a row. He was running up front, and Anaheim won in 2018 as well. And then he won it in 19 and 20. So I think he is feeling some pressure right now. And because of that, I think he's working really hard to don't say anything, be humble, do not put any extra pressure on yourself. Now, unfortunately for Barsha, a month earlier, Red Bull and Troy Lee Designs and Gas rented Anaheim and put this joke fake video together as if he won Anaheim again. Now, at the time, I think it was just a fun thing. It was a funny thing. But now it comes out a week before Houston. You probably saw the video. Just go to @RacerX Online. We have it on our social media feeds. So they do this fake as if Barsha won as if Barsha won Anaheim 21, a race that'll never happen. They do that fake thing. At the time, I think they thought it would just be fun. But now it looks serious. So then you look at the comments, and they're like, Barsha better go out and do well at Houston. He's got the target on his back now. I think that is exactly what Barsha did not want to have happen going into this opener. Dude, they shot this video a long time ago. You can't tell in November what the climate and the pressure are going to feel like in January. So it was a much more subdued, much more humble, much more, I'm trying to not hype any of this up. Doesn't matter what I do at the opener. I'm not trying to tell everybody this bike is the best thing ever. I'm not trying to say now that I'm on this bike and team, look out. He's really trying not to do that. Both this Roxzen and Barsha story get back to the point I always make preseason. We normally have this big press conference in Anaheim 1, and everyone gets mad because the riders don't talk any trash. And they're like, these guys have no personality. Why don't these guys talk it up? And I explain every year why that is. There is so much pressure on these guys. They are so nervous going into the opener. They've got 3 or 4 months of preparation and their entire lives and careers and everything going to be wrapped up into this one race. They do not want to make that pressure worse. So the moment you talk trash, the moment you set the bar high, you put very high expectations on something, you say something that you now have to back up, it just adds even more pressure. And as confident as any of these riders might be, as good as they all feel, and they're all super comfortable on their bikes, right? None of them, and I don't care even if you're Ricky Carmichael, you never get to the point where you go into the opener saying, I got this. Everyone has that little thing in the back of their mind where they're like, I don't really know where I'm at until I'm out on the racetrack with everybody else. Everyone has that little bit of, am I good? So when you're that nervous, it's hard to act cocky, and also you don't want to add more nerves by saying something that you don't really know if it's going to happen. So I really saw it from both Roxzen and Barsha, two different situations, but two guys who are really just trying to temper all expectations, not say championship or bust, win the race or bust. And those two, I think, you could take those two stories and then reflect that on everybody else in the field. Everybody's super comfortable on their bikes. But everybody's in see where I'm at mode. Can't win the title in the first race, but I could lose it. Those are the two big takeaways I have. That's my mini Supercross preview. Please come visit us. We'll have a live show at Three Palms Friday night before Houston. If you're anywhere in the area, come hang out with me, myself, and Mathis. Wait, did I say that? Me, myself. Myself, Jason Thomas, and Mathis. Two Jasons, two different people, and Mathis. Okay, so that's cool. Come hang out with us at Three Palms. And now, finally, Chad Reed. And you want the contrast to the Barsha Roxzen? We never thought Chad Reed would ever get to the point where he was finally comfortable not being a Supercross racer. But not only has he gotten to that point, but he is extremely comfortable. Wait till you hear how good Chad Reed feels about not racing, which, thank God, he finally got there. I didn't want 54-year-old Chad Reed to still be trying to make mains at Anaheim one year. Not going to happen. He is happy. Let's hear it. Chad Reed.
I don't want to take up too much time. I mean, if you want to chat, that's cool, but I know you probably got a lot going on. I do want to give you the chance to say, look, so this is finally happening. There is going to be a Supercross opener. You're not racing. What actually allowed you to get to that point? Because we figure, knowing you, if you want to race, you can figure out a way to make it happen. So how did you finally break that, be okay with that, decide this is the year I'm not doing it? What got you to that point?
Yeah, it's funny because everyone's kind of asked me, and and I didn't know what to expect either, Like, I kind of like, when I walked away from Salt Lake, I kind of felt, I felt pretty good about it, like I was kind of like, but definitely, you end on a, it ended strange, and, like, obviously you're in the swing of things as far as riding, training, doing it. At no point did it end how I ever pitched it. I don't think anyone could ever pictured what happened in 2020, and I guess probably having full understanding that I don't think 2021 is going to be any different or better. So I think back in the back of your mind, Supercross as I know it is over for now. And then in all honesty, I probably would give credit, or it's been more my kids, my kids have just gone full-blown BMX racing, and kind of like we got home from Salt Lake City and kind of one thing led to another, and we were just full-blown kind of traveling, and the more we did it, the more they wanted to do. It wasn't like, like the flame never died down. It kind of just kept ramping up. And I really haven't thought about it. Like, I haven't, which is kind of the biggest surprise for me is at some point I was like, it's going to hit me. It's going to be real. And maybe that realness comes Saturday night. I don't know. But like, I really don't miss it. Like, I rode for the last 2 days. I rode at my old property. I rode with Jet and Hunter. And then I rode with Joey yesterday. And like, I feel good, like I feel like my best description of it is like, I feel like I squeezed the sponge dry, I didn't leave in my 20s or my early 30s. Like, I am almost 40, and, like, that was my goal, I guess. My goal all along was to try to, like, when I'm done, I'm done. And when I was always waiting for that sign, and those signs started to come, and it was clear to me that this last year, like 2020, was going to be my last year, because I was just like, I feel good, like, as soon as you start appreciating what you did, I think that's time, it's when you don't, it's when you're not fully immersed into it, and you got that hate everyone attitude, which, I don't know that I ever hated everyone. I grew up, my biggest competitor was my cousin, so I never had to hate people, but it's kind of like that mentality of like, you versus the world, and I always loved that part. Modern era, people frown upon it, but I loved that part of my early days. It's either you're with me or against me. It's that simple.
Oh yeah, it was tense. It was way more tense than it is now back in those days. Yep.
Yeah. So like, week off, I've like, I didn't plan to be around it, but I know that there's a race happening. How it's happening and why it's happening, I couldn't tell you. Like, I haven't really paid that close of attention. I'm kind of just a fan at this point. I'm excited to go see who wins the race.
Dude, if you can ride your old track with current Supercross riders the week of the opener and not have these second thoughts, I think that's pretty clear that you're cleansed. Like, that's the really ultimate test.
Because and in all honesty, I have not rode Supercross since I rode off the track in Salt Lake City, and I barely rode a dirt bike, to be honest. I think that's been clear to the world and the social world that we live in.
Yeah.
I have not participated or been around motorcycles at all this year, and I jumped right on Monday morning. Like, I felt right at home. Like, I didn't feel like I had been away, as you know. I think it would been almost 9 months that I hadn't been rode. So, my timing, my whoops, like, everything felt, it all comes back. I've never been somebody that deals with arm pump, no nothing like that. And so it was fun. I enjoyed it. My pace really wasn't that terrible. And yeah, like, that was it. I kind of, like, I left it there, and there was zero thought of, like, questioning or like, oh, if I was to get ready, like, I could do this race or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not there for me.
Well, I think the coolest part about it is, everyone struggles with the now what do I do? Your answer came in the best possible way. Your answer came from your kids racing. Like, you can't get a better thing to become your next thing than that. Like, that's almost storybook how that worked out.
I never would have believed, like, you always hear, people always have stories, right? I mean, you grow up with stories, and from how do you go pro, and the feelings that when you go pro, and, your first time in a full stadium, and, all these kinds of things, your first factory contract, and all these things, everyone kind of has a way of explaining it to you. But until it's reality, until it's real for you, it's so hard to grasp and understand it fully. When I retired, and everyone's, I've heard that other people explain it like, sometimes what you get out of your children is actually far more than you can get out of your own racing. And I'll say that, taking my kids and doing national events, and, the drill because your kid does BMX, but like taking him down and putting him in the chute, and then kind of like walking away at a national level or at the Grands, it puts a lump in the back of your throat, there's a proudness that you feel and experience that I've actually never really experienced from my own racing. And so for me, it's just, I love it. I love that they're fully immersed into it. All the things that I personally experienced, that I felt that they need to feel, to want to achieve and be good at something, they're doing it. They're like, I see it, I feel it. And so for me, as long as they're doing that, like, it makes me super motivated to want to drive all over the country or the world or whatever it is that they choose to do, So we're having a blast, and it's preoccupying, it's ticking. I don't know how you want to say it, but it's scratching my itch on going racing and that competitive side of me, like, I'm getting it from them, and I just love it. I love watching them grow and learn, and it's just really fun for me.
I think people are listening to this and like, oh, we know how Chad is, man. He's outspoken, he's unfiltered, he tells everybody what he thinks, he's a hard ass, he's competitive. I gotta say, when I see you at these races, and I've seen you a lot, maybe because people are watching, like, you do a good job of, you're just another dad there. You know what I mean? Like, I think fans probably picture you really being gnarly moto dad. Maybe you are behind the scenes, but I don't see it when I see you at these events. How do you approach it?
There's a time and a place, and I think for the most part, like, you've been around it, and like, I had a gnarly dad, growing up, and he was unbelievably supportive. But when I did things wrong, or I did things that needed to be, straightened up, I well and truly knew about it, and I don't know that I'm that full version, but but you know, like when the kids do something that I think's not right or it's dangerous or it's whatever, you know, like for sure, both Ellie and I straighten them up and pull them into gear, and you know, make it clear that that's not what we're gonna let happen. But I think for the most part, it's you know, you've learned from that experience as well, so you try to learn a new communication route. And so yeah, I don't think I'm full blown gnarly moto dad, but I definitely know, you know, when and how to, you know, make it clear that it's not acceptable.
I gotcha. Yeah, I think people would be surprised if they saw you at the race. I think what they think they'd see from you and what actually happens is different. I just want to ask one other thing about the car racing, because that was gonna be your next flame. But it sounded to me like what you told me. I mean, it just wasn't going to be fun with the COVID rules. Like, what ended up happening there?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
You know, car racing is almost like dirt bikes, so maybe even worse in the fact that it's just, you know, it relies a lot on funding.
Mm-hmm.
When COVID hit, or it should not even when COVID hit. When COVID hit was really when everything was starting to ramp up and take off. So everyone just kind of pulled out and got afraid to spend money,
right,
because no one really knew what to expect. And so a lot of the places and avenues that I had to, you know, fund it, all were kind of pulling out and pulling back. And then for me, it was more just that strict, you know, the guidelines of what and how you had to go racing. You know, like for me, it's not like, hey man, I'm going to be, you know, this, or I shouldn't say it's not like, hey, I didn't want it to be my next career, but for me, it was solely based on the enjoyment and the fun that I got from driving a race car. Mm-hmm. And, you know, going and abiding by all those restrictions is just not something that I find fun. So I didn't really want to go. I had zero desire to want to even go find sponsorship at that point, you know.
No, I know what you mean. Like, everybody in the moto side is like, hey, the restrictions suck, but this is what we have to do to make a living, so we'll deal with it. But you weren't at that point.
Yeah, like Salt Lake City sucked, but it's what you do, right?
Yeah.
It's just, you're kind of there and you do it, and, you know, and it is what it is.
Right.
But yeah, like to actually go choose to do it because you're trying to go have fun, I didn't think that was, you know, it wasn't high on my to-do list things.
What do you think? Like, could this be, I mean, I think you liked doing it when it was normal, somewhere down the road, or is that dream already past?
Something like, even still to date, I definitely am considering, you know, like I've made calls, I've looked into 2021 and what's happening and all that kind of stuff, and pretty much like everything else in 2021, it just seems like it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a 2.0 of 2020, in my opinion. I actually personally think it's going to be worse at some point, but but we'll see, you know. So at this point, we're full on. We're living in Florida. Florida seems to be you know, ran and operated by a governor that gets it, so it seems a little more free and fun down here.
All right, that makes sense. Okay, the very last thing here. So, you know, Stu's back. He's even going to be in Houston working with Chase Sexton. I saw a little hint from you on Twitter that there might have been a rider that you could have worked with. Any chance we see you in that capacity maybe someday back at the races?
I wouldn't say no, because I do have a passion. It's a hard one to answer. I don't have a burning desire to want to just do it to do it, you know, like that's like something. But there is a few individuals that I enjoy, that I like them, you know, like as people, I like them.
Yep.
And I would like to help them, you know. There was two opportunities this year that could have really kept me involved deeply. You know, one probably more, actually really one more than the other in the fact that what it was, but you know, helping a factory team out and testing and things like that was something that was an opportunity, but it just didn't seem like the timing was right for me. It's something that I'm interested in, and maybe it's something that, you know, I do down the road, but I just didn't, like I always think that you should put yourself in the places that make you the most happiest and you're the best version of yourself. And jumping on planes to go to California and, dealing with the world's craziness right now is not the best version of myself when I put myself in that category.
You know what's the best part about all this? You have this kind of flexibility. It seems like you don't have to race cars. You don't have to work for a team. You don't have to stay in North Carolina if you want to hang out in Florida for a little bit. That's cool. You have options, and I don't think a lot of people get to that point. So maybe that's the best part of all. You can pick whatever you feel like doing, and if you don't feel like doing it, do it 2 years from now or something. That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's, and then obviously time ticks by, and at some point when you're trying to contribute to, in the conversation of if you're going to be a test rider or something like that, I mean, you have to, I don't get to just be, fall out of shape and not ride motorcycles. Like I would take it, really serious. And if I'm going to contribute, I feel like I would have to stay in touch and, ride regularly and do all those things so that I could do my job the best I can. So we'll kind of just see how that goes. The particular team that was interested was a team that I love, a lot of great people on it and things like that. So, it's something that motivated me or excited me, post retirement. But with saying that, we just purchased a new big fifth wheel and we're going on the road. We're going BMX and we're all in. So I'm actually excited. I feel like I've spent, the past 17 years and I've seen the country that million times over from the, 20,000 feet. But it's a huge, amazing, beautiful country, and I want to. Well, Ellie just made me aware I was being 19 years, so it felt like 17.
Got 2 more years left.
Yeah, I mean, for the past 19 years, we're being, you've lived life in the fast lane, and you've, you go to every major city, and in my opinion, every major city, no matter where you are in the world, is pretty much identical. I'm excited to go see the country on the ground and go see all the, the mountains, the oceans, the things that you just don't get the luxury of doing and seeing when you're fully wide open, living your life racing and the way that we had to do it. It seems like current modern day racing, they seem to have time off when we never did, and they get the vacation, they get to do all these things. Maybe they learned from us that it's, it's whatever, but yeah, I wouldn't change it either.
No, I know you love that how tense it was back then, but at the same time, like, you're giving more and more reasons showing how comfortable you are with, I'm good. Good.
No, I am. It's strange, because when you live, and I'm not even talking professional life. I mean, from just such a young age, like as young as you can go back, it was just that was one. It was tunnel vision. It was just that was it, and I always hoped that that one day there would be a sign of like where there'd be a sign, and whatever that sign was, I was hoping that it would be loud and clear. and it was. I started to just be like, man, you know what? This has been a good run. Like if it all ends today and like I feel happy and what I achieved, did I achieve everything I wanted to achieve? No, I fell short more times than not, but for the most part, like, it was really fun, and I did, most of everything I set out to do. I at least did it once, I didn't achieve it over and over and over like I planned to, but for the most part, the big goals, be a champ here, this championship, win races, be on the podium. Those boxes all got ticked well and truly. So it was a good run.
Hey, I got good news. So you went from the oldest guy on the track. Now you're young again. You've got half of your life still in front of you, and now you're young for anything else you're doing. So you just
I was gonna say now I got 3 kids, and I'm one of the younger parents.
Exactly.
Around. So it's how times change fast. Now JB will be the old guy. So
bro, I used to say, like, Wyndham and I are the exact same age, and I used to say, dude, I feel bad. I'm a young guy for what I do, and you're an old guy for what you're doing. We're the exact same age. So now you get to be a young guy. Congrats to you.
Yeah. That was funny how that changes.
It is. All right, man, this is good. Just a little piece. I didn't know if you'd ever get there. Maybe you didn't either, but it really sounds like you're happy what you're doing. So good for you. Cool.
Yeah, no, and you don't think you're getting there just because of the way your mind's programmed is. You just full on, and it happened fast. It really did. It was perfect timing, honestly. And then I said, like I said earlier, like it definitely wasn't the ending that I ever anticipated.
Yeah.
But it was really fun in the situation that 2020 was a tough year. I came in hurt, broken ribs, re-broke them at Phoenix. And then we had that big gap, with the lockdown. And I felt like I got to end racing a little bit more fun. I felt like I gave my everything at the beginning of the year off the track. I felt like I signed more autographs. My autograph sessions were longer than normal. Normally when I'd be looking at lap times and video, I was generally out there, signing autographs or interacting with fans. And that was taxing too, that was hard work. And I felt that I couldn't give what I wanted to give on the racetrack because I just wasn't prepared enough. That I was just going to give that same effort off the track. And so when we did the lockdown and I, got to not necessarily get back into full on fighting shape that I would have liked to have gotten in, but I was much better in Salt Lake. I felt more comfortable and it was just fun for me. Like Ellie and I went to the races together and it just felt like, I don't know, when you do it for 20 plus years with, just the two of us, it was kind of nice just to be two of us, and you didn't get to, there was no fans, there was nothing. So you basically just got to go and do the thing. And we got to tick that box and end it, with just the two of us and in a small group of friends, with Ben and Dan. Really that's it. That was our bubble. And when, no one else was allowed in, but yeah, like it was a kind of a cool ending in that respect, in the fact that it was just, you got to focus a little bit more on, there was 7 races. Let's start chipping away. Let's try to get better. Let's finish this thing off the way that you want to. And I finished it with a top 10. So I think, for me, it was good. I'm done.
And that's it. Did you hear it? I'm done. I'm done, said Chad Reed. These are mythical, magical words that we were not sure he would ever come to. And although you might think, look, it's just a guy racing a dirt bike and it's just a career and many people start it and many people end it and many people retire, I am always concerned. I am always concerned for these guys because I just see how much they are identified as racers, how much every day of their life is I get out of bed to try to get faster and better. And it is so hard to turn that off. It's a completely different lifestyle than us normal folks were ever able to live. And I do get concerned. And we've seen people have problems. A couple weeks ago, talked to Jeff Stanton about this on this very show and how difficult it is if you don't have something immediately to take that time, that schedule, that fire, whatever it is. If you just go from the most ambitious person on earth to retired in your 30s or even 20s in the case of some people, it's going to be a problem. So I was always worried, not just for Chad, but for anyone. I'm always worried when these guys retire, how's it going to go a few months down the road? The first few months, they finally have time off. They can eat whatever they want. They're super pumped. After that is when the tough part comes. I think Ryan Dungey, for example, is still dealing with that tough part right now, trying to find himself. So I was really worried that Chad was just going to keep going to the point where he was just so old that he could not do this, and he shouldn't be doing this, but he was doing it only because he didn't know what else to do. So it is awesome to hear. Not only is he at peace with it, he's at like a very, very high level of peace, and for the best reason ever. Because his kids are racing, and he loves that, and he loves them. That is storybook. You could not have scripted it better, and I think even he's surprised that it's worked out like this. Now, look, I've seen it firsthand. Chad lives right by me here in North Carolina, and we're at the BMX track together a lot. Although I have to say that time is almost over. It was like we had 6 months where we were racing our local tracks, and I would see him and Ellie and the kids every weekend, and we'd pit together and hang out together all weekend. But as you can see, he's already gone well beyond that level of ambition, and now he's going around the country chasing the big races and the fast riders. I'm a desk jockey. I have a regular job. I'm not doing that. So we're probably already off we're competing against Chad Reed's kids level. But it is awesome to see that. And I'm just telling you, I saw it firsthand how much he enjoys this. And I'm always worried for any racer when they retire that they're not going to find that thing. And Chad's already found it. And that thing is his kids racing. That is awesome. It's a point I wasn't sure he'd ever get to. So good for Chad. Thanks to Yoshimura for backing this show. As always, go to yoshimura-rd.com. Also, check them out on social media and check out their YouTube channel. They spend a lot putting some really cool videos together. So check out their stuff. Like I said, the Team Honda intro, the Team Hep Suzuki intro. I think they had a really cool Jet Lawrence thing a few months ago, or Lawrence Brothers thing. I don't remember. They have a lot of content coming out. I can barely remember the stuff we do. So that's our show. Go to racerxonline.com for all the info as we head to Houston. I'm on the plane Thursday morning, getting the COVID test Thursday afternoon. Friday night live show, racing on Saturday. Going to be hanging out, living in an Airbnb with Mathis and JT for 10 days. I'll probably shoot that on a GoPro and vlog it for you kids. Why not, man? It's just a weird time. We might as well make the most of it. Thanks for listening to our show, and get ready. Monster Energy Supercross 2021. It's here.